Welcome to the Soar podcast, the place for creative entrepreneurs with limitless dreams and unconventional stories. I'm your host, Ray Hyde Cornell, founder and business mentor at Chiron Consulting and CEO and senior copywriter at Cornell Content Marketing. My goal is to bring you stories of what's possible so you can never tell yourself that your dreams are impossible. Okay, so today we have Doc Wright of the Wright Edge. Doc, tell me about your business. What is it that you do?
We do very, very high-end custom exotic woodwork for major hotels, celebrities, pro athletes, musicians, residential clients, big companies, you name it. The bigger it is, we build it.
And how did you get into this? I mean, that's a very specialized business model, a specialized niche. How did you get into
Pure fucking randomness. It started.
As all the best stories are.
Yeah, no, it just started as stress relief from my former lifetime. I used to be a geologist in the oil industry and got really tired of the rat race. So I just picked it up in my spare time in the garage, and then a buddy asked me to make a bench. Then I made him a coffee table and some other small things. And then this couple asked me to make a dining table. And then an interior designer for Beaton Bow Homes out in Lubbock found me and hit me up to bid on a 14 by 5 foot table. So I did. And then a week later, she hit me up asking me to bid on 5. So I did. And she called me and was like, all right, well, where do we send the deposit check? I was like, I guess my house. So that's kind of how it all got started. And once I got that deposit check, bought an LLC, opened up a business bank account, and then cashed out my stock. Second, my bonus in my bank account. I pieced out. Figured
Wow.
I'm young enough, I'm not married, I don't have kids. If I'm going to take a risk and take a chance, and now's the time to do it, because realistically, like, what do I have to lose?
Yeah. Yeah. And what was that? I mean, it seems like it was a very organic process to just have people seeing your work and people asking you questions. And then what was that tipping point for you? How did you know now's the time to quit?
Because the job was for $134,000.
So that outweighed your pay as a geologist.
Yeah, it was a come to Jesus moment, basically. I mean, I was making well into the 6 figures, very comfortable life, but how we were all raised, because we're roughly the same age. We're all raised in the same environment where you graduate high school, you go to college, you get the degree, you get the job, you buy the house, you get the car, you get the dog, and
have the 2.5 kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had accomplished everything, and I was making more money than either of my parents by the time I was 32. So it was like, I've accomplished everything, and this is it. This is the next 30 years of my life. Kind of boring.
Yeah.
So that's, between that and, it was a big enough job to where, like, the deposit check for 50% down was still $67,000. It's like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to now. I mean, it wasn't that hard decision because the numbers were so big right out of the gate. And just to be clear to everybody's listening, this was not planned. I had no plans or grandeur or illusions that this could be a full-time job. It was never on my radar until this just kind of fell into my lap. And I was like, oh, okay, let's go. Let's see what's up. Let's go.
So would you consider yourself a risk taker?
Yes.
Do you think you have to be one to be an entrepreneur?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because no matter what happens to an entrepreneur, you're going to be put in certain situations where you're going to have to take a risk. Every entrepreneur that I know or talk to is put in those situations daily. And it's either, something really small or something really big, like going after a big fish client. Yeah, we may not have ever done it before, but do we think we can? Yeah. So then it's just a matter of pulling it off.
Yeah.
They don't know that. They don't see that. But in our heads, we're just like, oh, they think we know what we're doing.
So you talk about risk, and one of the things that I know about your business is that there is a lot of risk involved. I mean, you have to deal with sourcing materials, you have to deal with shipping schedules. I mean, issues at ports, and then COVID happened, and there was all this delay in getting things from overseas. I mean, there were even some shipping barricades that happened. So, how do you roll with those punches when you never know if what you're going to need in order to do the job is actually going to be there for you to do the job and make the money?
Hmm. Sourcing is probably the most important thing for us outside of just general sales. But that's where, developing a name for yourself and a reputation for yourself is very crucial because at this point, um, I get hit up weekly from people around the world that want to sell me their wood.
Mm.
And being educated in what's happening in the market is crucial because right now, um, I I'm not going to be importing from Asia at the moment
Right.
because all the shipping containers are coming to the United States. They're not going back. So shipping costs from Thailand or Vietnam or Malaysia, whatever, shipping prices have tripled, but they're still the same price coming from Central America. So my focus the last like 6 to 8 months has purely been on Central America, Costa Rica, Panama, opening up more lanes that way.
So keeping up with
So just,
the global economics of it all, but it also sounds like relationships and building those connections is critical to your business.
oh, 100%, because I am not going to send $60,000, wiring across, you know, an ocean to somebody I do not trust.
Yeah. So
That's not happening.
how do you approach that in your business? And you and I have had private or previous conversations about both of us being introverts. So how do you build those relationships, establish those connections, put yourself out there when you are an introverted entrepreneur?
I am very good at, I'm, all right, let me rephrase this. I am the most extroverted introvert you'll ever meet. Like when it's time to be, I'm the best there is. I'm really good at, you put me in front of anybody. If I had a superpower, you put me into a closed room with any walk of life, within 5 minutes, I will find common ground. That is my superpower. Now, I have no problem doing that, but after that conversation, I'm going to go cave for 3 days and turn my phone off because I don't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah, you got to recharge.
It's, you have to recharge, but it's also a necessary evil. So I know when I have to do it and I know when I don't have to do it. And that's kind of a big deal, but I don't mind being social at all. I like it at times, but it's when I'm in the shop trying to make progress on multiple projects or if we're just slammed in production time where I don't have that luxury, that's going to be put on the back burner for now.
Yeah. So, what made you go into doing something that was more of a brick and mortar type business than what seems to be the trend nowadays, which is everything is going digital? Did you ever question the path that you are on to build this very physical, tangible business in the digital world?
No, not at all, because working with your hands nowadays is kind of a lost art. And across every industry, whether it's any sort of manual labor, they are struggling to find anybody worth their weight. And turns out there is a very large need for what I do, especially in the higher end market. And that's allowed us to kind of transcend some of those general rules of, in the digital marketing age or the digital age. Well, turns out people really like what we do.
Yeah. So it's almost like you're saying that the market is saturated with digital everything, and people are still in need of and even craving those very physical, tangible products that really transform the physical space that we all live in.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because let's take LinkedIn for an example. the amount of random people that add me on LinkedIn that, have those automatic messages that come out. I mean, I get hit up for digital marketing firms daily, insurance daily, investments daily, everything. It's so oversaturated that it's become to the point where nobody seems special because everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
Now, if you can wade through that BS, because there still are people that are really good at what they do, and there's people who are really bad at what they do. You just kind of have to, weigh it out and sort through it. But with us, it's kind of the same thing. There's, if you go look at any of our finished products in any public space, and you go into the design district in Dallas and go look at a quote unquote high-end showroom, there's a large difference in the quality of the finished product.
Yeah.
It's, where if you're wanting to do something similar to me in terms of, providing a product or a service that is not digital, that is hands-on, there are still many numerous avenues to go down. It's still there.
So did you have any formal training as a woodworker? Did you ever serve as an apprentice or anything like that? Or did you really figure it all out on your own?
No, there is no formal training. I've never woodworked a day in my life until I started this. And there has been no training. It has been 100% just figuring it out.
Excellent. I love that, because one of the things that I think holds a lot of entrepreneurs back is they say, I've never had any formal training. I mean, my background is not in marketing. My background's in psychology and creative writing. And yet I run a digital marketing agency. So I think that's one thing that holds a lot of people back. But to your point, it doesn't have to. And so I wonder, because you are in a very high-end market, all of your pieces are very high ticket. So how did you develop, or were you just like born with the confidence to go from, I'm going to start doing this thing that I have never been formally trained on, and I'm going to charge, 5-6 figures for it? What was that like?
Well, that that first job right out of the gates kind of established general pricing. The other factor in that, I guess, I'm trying to narrow it down between two ideas on which one I want to speak on. When I decided to leave a very comfortable 6-figure salary job, I very quickly, right out of the gate, determined I do not want to make for friends and family. I don't want to do this to where I'm, working my ass off for just $1,000 piece. I want to go after whales. So that was kind of the starting point. And then, to be 100% honest, we had to kind of fake it till we make it.
Yeah.
We had enough, or I had enough self-belief in my skill set. Even though it was limited, I knew it was going to grow because I am a former scientist. So I'm incredibly analytical. I knew I could do it.
Yeah.
And honestly, there was not an option for failure.
Yeah, that's huge, right? I mean, I think that's the hallmark of a good entrepreneur, is knowing that you have no idea how you're going to do this thing, but you know that you can. And having that self-confidence in yourself, having that belief in yourself, knowing that you've tackled things that you've never done before, and you've come out on top, and you can do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a conversation I have with a lot of people that want to become an entrepreneur or want to start their own business. The biggest obstacle that you are going to face in making that decision is yourself. You are your biggest hurdle. You are your biggest problem. Get out of your own way.
Yeah, exactly. Even when, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but even when you're in that feast or famine mode, I mean, that's part of freelancing. And, part of our goal here at Chiron is to help freelancers, particularly creatives and people who have digital-based businesses, but also those who have physical businesses, build stability over time so that you don't have those peaks and valleys, those feast and famine situations. But when you're starting out, and in the first, I would say probably 5 to 8 years of business, that's going to be a constant in your business. You're going to have these cycles. So how do you deal with that personally and then also as a business owner?
A lot of sacrifice, a lot of time that you know you're not going to be paying yourself. It's a necessary evil. I am stubborn to the point where it's either it's a blessing and a curse, because I refuse to take on investors and I refuse to take out bank loans or business lines of credit. Over the last 4.5 years, I've done everything in cash because that's how I want it. I do not want to have my business ran to where I'm constantly owing people money.
Yeah.
So there are sacrifices I have made, but you know, it's funny how life works out. And I'll tell this quick story. So in September of 2019, I was down at our shop, which is about 30 minutes south of Dallas, our current location. I was down here 7 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day. So I was only at my house to literally eat and sleep. And I got really tired of carrying that overhead. So I sold my house and I moved down here to Red Oak. And I'm so thankful I did that, because fast forward, 5, 6 months later, COVID hit, all lockdowns hit. We had 4 massive corporate jobs cancel immediately, not put on delay, not, hey, we're going to talk about this later, straight up cancel. So if I would not have sold my house, we would have gone bankrupt.
And if you hadn't sold it when you did, you may not have been able to sell it during COVID.
Exactly. There are certain times where, yeah, you're going to have to sacrifice some things you've worked for. You're going to have to sacrifice your time. You're going to have to sacrifice money. But the number one thing is, how much do you believe in what you're doing? How much do you believe in yourself? Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah. And it sounds like the decision to sell your house, that was actually almost like a commitment to your business in a way. It was you deciding, this is what I really want. I don't need the prescribed path of society. I don't need the house. I don't need the yard. I don't need the white picket fence. You chose to design your life to be the way that you want it to be, to serve your needs, serve your purposes, and to hell with what everyone else says you should be doing.
It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
I've never really been one to care about what anybody else thinks or what society thinks. I've really never been that type of person. But what I found out about myself over the last few years is, I really don't need a lot, or I really don't need much to be happy. I'm kind of a minimalist. Now I am, but
yeah, you're definitely a minimalist.
Well, I look at certain people that I know and certain friends that make a shit ton of money, and they have a big gaudy house and they have all these cars, but it's a different kind of stress, and it's all just stuff. You can't take it with you when you die. And the biggest thing that I love about being an entrepreneur is I have carte blanche freedom. If I want to take off for 2 to 3 weeks and just drive around the country, I can.
Yeah.
If I want to go play golf on a Tuesday morning, I can. I am not married to anything. As long as I get my work done by the deadline, doesn't matter when it happens, as long as it does happen.
Yeah.
And that's what I value over anything about being an entrepreneur. Owning your own business is cool, but not having to live by anybody else's rules. That's the most fun part.
And do you ever feel pressure from friends or family? And if so, how do you deal with that pressure to conform to what they expect? Or, you should get a real job, or, oh, don't you want that stability? Things like that. Do you ever get those outside opinions, and how do you deal with it?
I used to.
Oh, yeah.
Now I just don't talk to them.
You're just like, you're not getting the program. I'm just going to cut you out.
When you're an entrepreneur, you have to be incredibly picky and incredibly self-aware about who you allow in your life and to influence your life. Anybody who has doubted me or doubted the business or mocked it or made fun of it in the beginning, they're no longer around. I refuse to allow any negativity in my life because your mental state and your confidence cannot be rocked, shattered, or shaked. So if you're going to be a negative influence in my life, you are cut the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like Joe Rogan said it on his podcast once, and I've kind of lived by this. He's like, that I can't catch a break kind of guy, get them the fuck away from me.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Nope.
If you think that you're just going to get shit on your doorstep and that's all you're going to get in life, then that's what's going to happen. But if you expect good things, if you expect that, well, yes, of course, things are going to go the way that I want them to because I'm living my life by my rules and this is what feels right intrinsically in my gut. This is what feels right. Then, of course, it's going to work out. Just like with your house situation, you sold at just the right time in just the right circumstance because none of us knew that COVID was going to hit. None of us knew that it would have this massive impact on our businesses. And you followed your instinct, you followed your gut, you did things the way you wanted to do them. And it was the right move for you.
Yeah. And this most simplest way I can put it is unless you're the one putting food on my table, your opinion is weightless.
Yeah.
What is best for me and what is best for my business, that's my responsibility. Everything else, I honestly don't give a shit about.
Yeah. So what advice would you give someone who is in a corporate job, they're miserable, they're burned out, and they want more freedom, they want more autonomy over their life and their time? What advice would you give them?
If you already have an idea for a business, take advantage of the situation where you're currently making money. So start setting things up to where you can hit the ground running. But the hardest decision you're going to have to make is taking that leap. Now, the bad part about being an entrepreneur, there's no dipping a toe in. There's no like, oh, is the water cold or hot? No, we're putting you on the 25-meter board and you're diving in head fucking first.
Yeah.
That's the only way to go because you will never work harder than when your mortgage is on the line or, you're trying to put food on the table for your kids. You will never work harder in that moment. Just know that the life of an entrepreneurs are the only people in the world who are willing to work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours for somebody else.
Yes. Yep. You're absolutely right. Yeah. And it's interesting because I think a lot of people see that transition process when they're in the 9 to 5 job, when they're working that traditional employment and they have a side hustle. They think that's putting the toe in the water, but really it's not. It's a completely different dynamic. You have your W-2, you have your side hustle, and then when you make that full switch into full-time entrepreneurship, it's a completely other world in and of itself. And that's when you really hit that sink or swim. If you're going to do this, you better do or die sort of energy.
Yeah. And, I frankly don't understand the fear of it because I look at it this way. I have a college degree. I have a very lucrative work experience past. Like my resume looks amazing. Now, let's say the Wright Edge fails, I can always go back.
Yeah.
I don't understand the fear.
Yeah.
And who gives a shit if it fails?
Yeah, I think that's the point. I think that's the fear piece is people are afraid it's going to fail, and then they're afraid of people in their life telling them, oh, I told you so, or oh, look at you, you couldn't do this thing that you said you were going to do. But yeah, who the fuck cares?
Anybody who says that to you is not a friend.
Yeah.
Anybody who says that to you is not. And honestly, when people like that do say that, they're just self-projecting their fears onto you. It has nothing to do with you. It's their own bullshit insecurities.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the psychology of people? We can talk about that.
I bet you could. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It is all projection. It's their fear and likely also a layer of insecurity that they don't have the courage to do what you're doing.
Mm-mm, not at all. And then once you are on this side of the equation, you very quickly figure out it's kind of like the wolf pack mentality. Wolves run with other wolves, and you don't see wolves hanging out with sheep. Like, you want to surround yourself with like-minded people who are just as hungry as you are, who can add benefit to your mindset or your business. I mean, the mental aspect of running a business is so crucial. You have to surround yourself with those types of people. They build you up, they make you stronger, they reinforce your values, they reinforce your mindset. That's why I don't care if it's somebody I've known for 10 years or somebody I've known for 3 weeks. If you're the right type of person that just fits the equation with this, you just became my best friend.
Yeah. Yeah. So what keeps you going personally? Who are the people in your life, or what are the resources that you tap into to keep you going when you get thrown some major curveballs in your business?
Again, being incredibly stubborn. I refuse to fail.
Yeah.
It's not an option. But when I do get down or, I need to talk, I do have those friends that I can reach out to. And most of the time it's not a reinforcement thing. It's just to talk about it out loud.
Yeah.
And just to get it off your chest. Cause I get asked that question a lot, like, how do you handle that kind of thing? And the biggest thing is, always remember where you started and where you're at. Look at what you've done. It's a big deal. You've done a lot. And just reminding yourself of that helps me get through a lot of tough times.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Doc, where can people check you out online?
You guys can follow me on Instagram or Facebook at The Wright Edge, and that's right with the W, or feel free to go to our website, www.thewrightedge.com.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here, Doc. I really appreciate it. Hey, it's Ray again. Thanks for listening. If you liked this episode, please subscribe and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, YouTube, and more. And want to be a guest on the show or know someone who has an amazing story of entrepreneurship? Apply on our website at www.chironconsulting.us/podcast.